Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to the Hindu analysis of 22nd June 2024. Now, let us look at the articles for the day. There are three articles to be covered in detail. One is a progressive Indian policy on Myanmar outline. So, it is basically a IR topic where we shall talk about the India-Myanmar relations, and the author would be suggesting some new things or basically what should be done in the modern times, in the present times with regards to our policy as far as Myanmar is concerned. We shall be looking at that. Second, new Cold War. Now it's a small article editorial because we have already studied yesterday, or rather day before yesterday, that Russia and North Korea have signed a defensive pact. So one attacked means both are attacked, and on that, an article is there. Third, testing times. Again, another news which we have covered many a times in the backdrop of the fiasco that is taking place as far as the education in India is concerned, with regards to the NEET exam, with regards to your JRF, UGC and all those exams. So there are testing times for the NTA. Apart from this, for prelims, one is patent filings credit Bharat Biotech as the inventor of Covaxins. No talk about ICMR, though this is something which is totally against what was stated by the NDA government in Rajya Sabha during the last tenure. So we shall see what exactly is happening over here. And the second is Armenia becomes the latest nation to recognize Palestine. So we shall see which all nations have already recognized Palestine and how Armenia is the latest as far as the nations to recognize Palestine. So these are the topics for the day. Let us look at the first topic. As you can see here, a progressive Indian policy on Myanmar outlined. Written by Mr. Anshuman Chaudhary, New Delhi-based researcher and writer from Assam and formerly an associate fellow at the Center for Policy Research. Now, see, basically, in this he is suggesting 4 points. Now, I can show you. See, here is the fourth point, the third point, the second one, the first thing. So basically there are four major things that he's suggesting in the new policy that India should adopt with regards to Myanmar. So first of all, everybody should remember, India has steadfastly maintained former relations with this regime. What is this regime? This is Janta regime, or whether you can call it the military regime. Now, what is so wrong or right about former relations with regime that is Janta? Please understand, this Janta regime, through the elected civilian government in February 2021. So it is now almost 3.5 years that in Myanmar we are having a military rule. The problem with this, one problem is it is a military rule overthrowing the civilian government. Another problem is that this military government in the last 3.5 years, they have caused a lot of atrocities which has resulted in almost 25 lakh people getting displaced and 5,000 Myanmar citizens getting murdered. So under these circumstances, if India is maintaining this, relations, there is some question mark on that. Some experts would question it, because you all can understand here that Mr. Modi's government has done very, very little to engage with the civilian, the pro-democracy, rather I should write, the pro-democracy resistance. And in the last 3.5 years, the pro-democracy people, they earlier used to have only political regime or political wing. They now also have military wings. So that is a new addition. But then India has kept all its ties with Janta and has almost not kept any tie with the opposition. Now, some scholars, you can understand, they support this viewpoint of Mr. Modi and that government, because they believe India should only look after its interests. We should not be guided by idealistic preoccupations Rather, the foreign policy should be guided by realistic ideology. And that is what India is doing by having complete ties only with the Janta government. So this is basically the introduction of this particular article. Now comes the question how India can step out of the China's shadow. That's the first question that is being asked here. Now, please understand. You all know when it comes to Myanmar, and I'll take a red pen here, it has a close ties with China. And India also wants that in Myanmar, because it's our immediate neighbor, we should have some very good influence. So, in order to basically balance the influence of China, whatever or whenever we talk about or whenever we think about Myanmar, as far as the Myanmar is concerned, to define its interests in the Southeast Asian nation, our thinking is in very narrow strategic terms. And from here the author says we need to have a progressive Indian policy on Myanmar outlined. And as I said, there are 4 points. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. So let us begin with the first point. India needs to use its credentials as the largest federal democracy in the region to sharpen its influence in Myanmar. See, I understood all the points very clearly about what is written by the author, but here I had some issues and I'll point it out what exactly I'm saying. Look at the first point, and I'm trying to make you understand this first point here. Author is saying we should not think in terms of narrow set of values, but rather we should think about more progressive and value-driven Myanmar policy that works in our favor. And under this he says that India should have 2 pivots. What are those 2 pivots? The first pivot is democracy, and the second pivot is human security. Under that, as I pointed out, there are 4 points. The first one he says, if you look at Myanmar, their opposition, which is invariably pro-democracy, they have always looked at us, looked at India. They look at India as a role model. They look at India as a role model when it comes to as a federal democratic union. So the author is saying if we help the opposition, which anyways is enamored by us, we will be able to distinguish between India and China, which is our primary regional, competitor. So here the author is saying that when it comes to, let's say, arms, ammunitions, both India as well as China can sell that. But then it is only India which can sell the federal cooperation. So the author is saying that this way we will be able to, outmaneuver China in their own backyard. Now, if you ask me, my confusion with this point is, of course, this is great. Everything which is written on the, in the editorial, it looks good. But then, again, it would be very idealistic thinking. It is not realistic. Why it is not realistic? Because if you look at it from the perspective of the fact that the Democrat or supporters of democracy in Myanmar, they are in opposition. They are fighting with the Janta regime. And if we support this, to some extent, we will again be in the bad books of the Janta. Of course, we would be in the good books of the democracy, those people who support it and all. But we are not going to be outmaneuvering China when it comes to your, Myanmar, specifically with regards to Janta. Of course, we have, there are other points which the author cites. Those points which we do, in that way we can help the opposition much better manner, in the sense that you will see from Myanmar's border there are many people coming in our side who are looking for shelter. And most of the time these people are those who are pro-democracy people. If we give them the shelter, it is very clear we can help them, and we can clearly point out to Janta that, see, these are the people who are are asking for our help, and we are not going to deny them. But then, too idealistic foreign policy is something that might not work that properly when it comes to, your Myanmar. Look at the second point. Author says, India needs to immediately halt all weapon sales to Myanmar military. Now, let me tell you the second point. See here. An advocacy group. There is an advocacy group. It is known as Justice for Myanmar. They are saying that Indian military hardware manufacturers, in the last few years, we have supplied a lot of non-lethal and sometimes semi-lethal equipments to Myanmar, and this is going on since 2001. In the latest report that came out on March 27 also, the group said that on January 2nd, the Indian Air Force, they transferred a package having 52 items, and they were mainly for navigation and communication parts. Another report that is coming from Frontier Myanmar, they said India has supplied $1.5 million worth Navy grade diesel to Janta. So the author here is saying that India should stop these things, because invariably the Myanmar Janta uses all these things that India is supplying to them basically for or to be used against the Indian people. Again, if you look, one more point, $1.5 million Navy grade diesel. IAF providing packages which are for navigation and communication parts. What we are providing is non-lethal or semi-lethal. Now, if you see here, clearly it is visible that India, even when we are supplying anything to Myanmar, we are not supplying anything which is very lethal, which would do a lot of harm to the opposition as far as Myanmar is concerned. So I think this is the balancing act that our government is doing. It could have been so easy that India would have also provided lethal weapons, but we did not do that. So that's the balancing act, as I would say. Third point. India needs to immediately open cross-border humanitarian corridors to help civilians affected by the conflict along the 3 border provinces. So let me tell you first of all what author is saying here. See, you all can understand that people who are getting affected that side, in the 3 provinces of Sagaing region, Chin state and Northern Rakhine. Out of these, Sagaing region has seen the maximum displacement. Then comes Rakhine and then comes the Chin state. So this is the order. Lots of civilians, hundreds of civilians, they have been pushed across the border. Now the author is saying India should stop the border fencing that we are planning. And as our Honorable Minister, Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah said that we will stop the free movement regime. So author is saying it should be reinstated. Now again, in normal circumstances, we wouldn't have done fencing. We would have allowed this FMR. But then we have to see our own condition also. What is happening in Manipur? In order to, safeguard our people, our government feels that fencing is required because a lot of smuggling of the drugs are happening, weapons are being smuggled. FMR is being, stopped for some time because mainly, that so that we can control our own problem. So it's not that we do not want to help the people. Yesterday also, if you remember, we had talked about that 5,000 Myanmaris citizens have come this side and in Manipur are living in a Naga, district. So we are trying to help. There are many people who are staying in Manipur, Mizoram, etc., etc. But then we also have to take care of our own problems. Of course, there is no denial to the fact that the author is saying we should give more humanitarian aid. That means medicine, food, tarpaulin. And here the author praises that what is happening in Mizoram, where the people are helping the asylum seekers, is a great thing. And the author says we can adopt the best practices like Thailand and all are doing, and we can adopt some things from there. The last point, the fourth point the author says is, Mr. Modi's government should immediately halt the detention and deportation of asylum seekers from Myanmar. Please understand. In Manipur, the government has deported around 115 asylum seekers, and latest it was done on June 11th. Now the author says these are the people who have come to India mainly because of the disturbances over there. So that means they have been forced. It's not that they are coming here with any mal-intention. And thus the author is talking about the refugee issue, that even though we have not ratified the 1951 Refugee Convention, we should, not treat them as illegal immigrants. Rather, we should treat or give them humanitarian assistance. Apart from this, one last point that author says is Assam government has arrested some 27 Chin refugees. They have been detained and kept in a human refugee shelter. They should be, allowed to go out. So these are the certain points, and this was the biggest article for the day. And I think, if you cover these 4-5 points, this 5 lines that I have written here in the crux, they are the most important points. And if you cover them properly, your everything is done. Rest I've explained to you. Let us move to the second topic. New Cold War. Again, old topic. Why old topic? Because see, on day before yesterday, I'm sorry, where is it? Just a second. It's here. 28th June, we have covered Russia, North Korea sign defense pact. So it is a continuation of that only. So here you can see, basically what is happening is that this alliance between Russia and North Korea, where they both are talking about mutual assistance in the event of aggression. The editorial team is saying that this may lead to the Cold War era. Now, see, already Russia and North Korea have been allies. Earlier also they were allies. But now they both are having a lot of sanctions from the West. And that's why, because of the sanctions, see, Russia is having sanctions because of the Ukraine war, and North Korea is having the sanctions because of the nuclear weapons that they are trying to have. So they both are having their own sanctions. But now, these sanctions which have been imposed on these two countries have brought them close again, which is clearly indicated by the fact that after 24 years, Mr. Putin had traveled to North Korea. Here, please understand, in the past, in the last few years, if you see, Mr. Putin had supported multilateral efforts to curb North's nuclear program in the past. Moscow had also voted for sanctions at the UN Security Council against Pyongyang over its nuclear arsenals. So you can clearly see that Russia, because of the sanctions due to this Ukraine war, is now coming closer to North Korea. And this is not only this. What is happening is, Mr. Putin is trying to have friendship with everyone who is having some sort of enmity with the West. So one example I showed is North Korea, where Korea had come to assistance of Mr. Putin by providing weapons, ammunitions for the Ukraine war. And in return, Putin had provided North Korea with fuel plus food. And there are reports that they might provide critical technologies also. So one country with whom they are trying to have this is, North Korea. Second, Iran. You can see, as I said, Putin is expanding ties with every country that is having bad relations with US. And second is your Iran, from whom they have bought the kamikaze drones. Third, if you see, China having, emerged as a key economic, technological and energy partner. So clearly, what is happening is, this is remnants of Cold War, where the world appears to be divided into two parts. And the problem is, in this case, for example, North Korea will have now no incentive or little incentive to discuss denuclearization. And if you look at Russia already had bad relations with Japan. And now when they are coming closer to North Korea, invariably Russia's relation with South Korea will also deteriorate. And invariably Japan and South Korea, they both would move towards US. And in Asia, we might have a tripartite partnership between these three countries. So, too many things happening in the world sphere, which clearly represents or shows that the new world, or the new Cold War era is coming back. So please remember this many points. This is more than sufficient. Moving ahead, let us look at the testing times. Again, a repeated topic with regards to NEET and all. We have already talked the integrity of the exam was compromised. UGC NET, which is conducted twice a year to determine the eligibility of the candidates for the position of assistant professor, junior research fellowship assistant professors, for PhD admissions, all that. Now, in this article, they are saying it's good that this UGC NET exam was cancelled. And the good thing is that this was cancelled even though there was no, complaint. The government got some reports that on darknet these papers have come, and the government decided to cancel it on its own. But all this has done what? They have created a lot of pressure on NTA. The National Testing Agency is having a lot of pressure at this point of time. Because I told you, the one fiasco with regards to NEET, another fiasco with this UGC NET, already complaints with regards to JEE engineering exams. So there are so many complaints, and the government is definitely on the back foot on this. Again, kudos has to be given where it is due. The government on its own cancelled this net exam even though there was no complaint. They have already asked CBI to probe this case, in the case of net. But then this article also says, on one hand, in the net, the government has been so proactive, but when it comes to NEET, government has not adhered to the similar demands. And this article says that, see, even for the net exam, almost 9 lakh candidates had studied for months, had traveled long distances to give this exam, and they would have to now again do all this, and invariably this proves very, very costly. Now, in the second paragraph, the editorial is asking certain questions. You can see here. The questions are: no one in the government's education establishment has explained why the NET, which used to be an offline exam, which was conducted by CBSE till 2018, was then taken over by NTA, was made an online exam, and again they resorted this year that this exam will be offline, that is a pen and paper exam, which is more vulnerable to paper leaks. So editorial says, from an offline to an online, and now again offline this year. Why? Earlier this exam, which was done by CBSE, now handled by NTA. How? Why? Question is about accountability plus punishment of guilty. Accountability means there has to be a rehaul of NTA system and personnel, so that we ensure that technical glitches, these cheating scams, these paper leaks, these proxy candidates don't happen. Because lakhs of our youth, they are giving this exam, and they should not get cheated. So these are certain points that are being raised as far as this article is concerned. Again, please go through. In the previous days, we have read this many times. Now comes your vaccine. And the vaccine is: patent filings credit Bharat Biotech as inventor of Covaxin, omit ICMR. Now, when we were, suffering from corona, 2 vaccines had come in our country. One was Covaxin and another one was Covishield. So this Covaxin, when it had come, it was claimed to be India's first indigenously developed coronavirus vaccine. It was a joint collaboration between ICMR and the Hyderabad-based Bharat Biotech International Limited, with intellectual property rights totally and jointly shared between the two organizations. This is what had been stated by stated in the public records. But recently, when the filings were done by your Bharat Biotech at patent offices in India as well as US and Europe, they have mentioned the names of scientists and personals of its own agency as the only inventors of this vaccine, and there is no mention of the ICMR scientists. This article mentions that Hindu has gone through these patent applications, and in this, the BBIL personals, they only have been credited with it. The chairman and founder, no need to remember the names, the chairman and the founder of BBIL have been given all the credit here, and no credit given to ICMR scientists. Now basically this article is saying that this thing contradicts what the government had spoken earlier with regards to IP rights in Rajya Sabha. Now here it is mentioned, in July 2021, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, the Congress president, had raised a question and demanded to know the details between agreement between ICMR and BBIL. And then the Honorable Minister of State for, I think, Health had answered that, jointly they both have done here. So here, you can see minister's statement said that the ICMR would provide a well-characterized virus strain for the vaccine development. The BBIL would develop the final vaccine formulation and would be given a non-exclusive license granted to commercialize the product within 2 years. So if you see here, clearly it is intellectual property rights would have been jointly owned by ICMR and BBIL. And ICMR was also to receive 5% net sales royalty here. Now in this, in the page number 8, further it was written that ICMR has made it very clear that they have not funded BBIL, but they did, make some expenditure of totaling 35 crore to develop the Covaxin. And till January 2022, according to the answer given by the government, 171 crore had been given as royalty for Covaxin. So this has all been spoken. So let us see what exactly is coming out of this. Though BBIL's spokesperson had said to the Hindu that Bharat Biotech, patent that they have filed is only for process development and specific to the making of vaccine. Now, as far as the Indian IPR laws are concerned, under that for product patent, there are patents for both product and process patents. And product patents give a grant any inventor a monopoly over drug. So this is being stated by them over here. Let us come to the last topic. Armenia has become the latest nation to recognize Palestine. So before this, Spain, Ireland and Norway had officially recognized the state of Palestine, and now Armenia is also saying that they are going to recognize the state of Palestine. So Yerevan's government is genuinely interested, they are saying, in establishing long-term peace and stability. And again you can see this shows that the support for Israel is slightly dwindling as far as the world is concerned. And Israel has accused all these European nations, specifically these 3 European nations, of rewarding terrorism with this particular action. So please remember this for prelims, that which all nations have accepted or recognized the state of Palestine. Let us come to the mains questions for the day. There are 2 questions. Number 1, analyze the causes and consequences of the Cold War between the USA and the USSR. You can have this question between, and I should not write USSR, rather I should have written Russia. 150 words, 10 marker. And question number 2, in light of the current internal conflict in Myanmar, India needs certain changes in its policy towards Myanmar. Analyze in detail. 250 words, 15 marker. That's all from today's articles. Let us meet again tomorrow, same place, same time. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.